Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. The room buzzed with hushed conversations and shifting glances as the Empire's council gathered. Veer stood at the center, her armor gleaming under the flickering lights, her expression unreadable. She had led countless missions before, but this one was different. The fate of the Empire itself now rested on her shoulders. The eternal heart is our only hope, the council leader's voice cracked with urgency. His once imposing figure now slumped with age and the weight of endless war. We have no time left, Veer. The alien forces have crushed our fleets. If we don't act now, if we don't find the heart, there will be nothing left to save. Veer clenched her jaw. She had never been one to rely on myths, especially not in times of crisis. But here she was, chosen to lead a mission chasing a story whispered in darkened corners for centuries. I understand the stakes, she replied, her voice steady. I'll find it. And if it's real, I'll bring it back. The council members exchanged uncertain looks. They wanted reassurance, but Veer didn't give false promises. She nodded to her team, 5 of the most skilled operatives humanity had left, and together, they walked out, their mission clear. The war had taken everything. Cities lay in ruins, the Empire's vast territories and now desolate landscapes haunted by alien patrols. Veer's team boarded the Endurance, an aging starship that had seen better days but still flew with stubborn defiance. It was all they had. Her team was quiet as they settled into their stations, each one lost in thought. There was Dane, the sharp-eyed marksman, his hands steady as he adjusted his gear. Ilara, their tech specialist, tapped away at the ship's console, her fingers moving as quickly as her thoughts. Brutus, the heavy weapons expert, loomed large and silent, his presence comforting in its unshakable stability. Kira, the medic, checked her supplies, her face a mask of focus. And then there was Zane, the pilot, already preparing the ship for launch, his eyes scanning the controls. Veer took her seat at the command chair, her fingers wrapping around the armrests. You all know why we're here, she said. This isn't just another mission. The Empire needs us to succeed, and if we don't, she trailed off. They knew the stakes. Failure wasn't an option. Zane's voice cut through the silence. Coordinates locked. We're heading to the Regal system, what's left of it, anyway. The Regal system had once been a hub of civilization, a prosperous part of the Empire's territory. Now it was a wasteland, overrun by alien forces and abandoned by the humans who once called it home. It was also where the first rumors of the Eternal Heart had surfaced, buried beneath the ashes of destruction. The journey was long, and tension weighed heavily on the team. As the stars streaked by outside the viewport, Veer couldn't shake the gnawing doubt in her mind. What if the Eternal Heart didn't exist? What if this mission was a fool's errand, sending them to their deaths for nothing more than a fairy tale? But she couldn't think like that. She wouldn't. Stay sharp, she ordered. We'll be dropping out of hyperspace in 5. Her team nodded in unison, their weapons ready, eyes hard with determination. They were soldiers, born and bred for moments like this. But even soldiers knew the dangers of hope. Hope was fragile in the face of overwhelming odds. The ship shuddered as it exited hyperspace, the once brilliant blue of faster-than-light travel giving way to the black, cold expanse of space. The planet Regal 4 loomed ahead, a craggy, broken mass, its atmosphere thick with dust and debris. Veer studied the planet's surface, her heart sinking. It looked worse than she had imagined. Scanners show no life, Ilara reported, her voice tight. Not that we expected any. Veer nodded. Take us in, Zane. And keep us low. No need to draw attention. The endurance descended, cutting through the atmosphere in a series of sharp jolts. The planet's surface came into clearer view, ruins stretched as far as the eye could see, crumbling towers and shattered streets, remnants of a civilization long dead. The silence was deafening. Landing zone ahead, Zane said, guiding the ship to a flat expanse near the heart of the ruins. We're clear. The team disembarked quickly, their boots crunching against the dirt as they fanned out, weapons at the ready. The air was thick and acrid, the kind that stuck to your lungs with every breath. Spread out, Veer ordered. We're looking for any sign of the artifact. Hours passed with no success. The team combed through the wreckage, uncovering nothing but dust and decay. Frustration gnawed at them, but no one voiced it. Not yet. It was Alara who found it first. A small, half-buried chamber beneath what had once been a grand hall. The entrance was narrow, almost hidden by debris, but her scanner picked up something, a faint energy signature deep within the ground. Got something, she called, her voice echoing through the comms. Veer was by her side in seconds, peering into the darkness. What is it? Alara adjusted her scanner. Energy signature, could be a power source. Old, though. Very old. Veer didn't hesitate. Let's move. The team descended into the chamber, their lights casting eerie shadows on the stone walls. The air was cooler here, untouched by the decay above. As they moved deeper, the walls began to change, symbols and carvings appeared, faint but unmistakable. These are ancient, Kira whispered, tracing her hand over one of the symbols. Predate the Empire by centuries. Veer felt a chill run down her spine. They were getting close. She could feel it. The chamber opened up into a large, circular room, its walls lined with intricate carvings that told a story, though none of them could understand it. In the center of the room, a pedestal stood, untouched by time. On it, a crystal hovered, glowing faintly with a soft, pulsing light. There it is, Dane said, his voice barely a breath. The eternal heart. For a moment, no one moved. They had spent so long searching, fighting, hoping, and now here it was, within reach. But something felt off. Veer stepped forward cautiously, her eyes locked on the crystal. Stay back, she warned, her instincts screaming. Something's not right. But it was too late. A deep rumble shook the chamber, the ground quaking beneath their feet. From the shadows, figures began to emerge, tall, sinewy creatures with pale skin and sharp, glowing eyes. The aliens had been waiting ambush. Brutus roared, raising his weapon and firing into the darkness. The team sprang into action, firing in all directions as the aliens closed in. Veer's heart pounded as she fought, her blade slicing through the air with deadly precision. The creatures were fast, faster than any she had faced before, but they weren't invincible. We need to get out of here. Zane shouted over the comms, blasting a creature away with his rifle. We're surrounded. Veer glanced at the crystal, still hovering on the pedestal. It called to her, but not in the way she expected. It wasn't a weapon, wasn't something she could wield. It was something more. She realized the truth in that moment. The eternal heart wasn't a physical object. It wasn't something they could use to save the Empire. It was a symbol, a reminder of what humanity had lost in the war. Their unity. Their hope, and it wasn't enough to simply find it. They had to believe in it. Veer moved quickly, her instincts guiding her as she deflected another strike from the alien attackers. The realization that the eternal heart wasn't a weapon but a symbol of humanity's lost unity burned in her mind. She had to get her team out of this, but she couldn't leave the heart behind, not when it represented something so vital to their survival. Elara, we need to download whatever data is here, Veer shouted as she slashed through another alien warrior. The heart isn't what we thought. It's more than just this crystal. Elara, dodging behind a column, tapped into her portable console. I'm on it. Give me 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Zane shouted from behind his rifle, which was spitting out rounds at a rate that only barely kept the alien creatures at bay. We don't have 2 minutes. Make it work. Veer shouted back, pushing forward with renewed energy. She had fought many battles, but this was different. They weren't fighting just for survival, they were fighting for the future of their species. Every decision mattered now. Brutus took up position next to her, his heavy gun roaring as he laid down suppressing fire. I'll cover you, he grunted. Just make sure this is worth it. It will be, Veer replied through gritted teeth. It has to be. Elara's fingers flew across the console as data streams flowed into her system. Got it, she finally shouted. All the information on this place and the heart, there's centuries of knowledge here. I'm transferring it to the ship now. Good, Veer said, barely pausing as she parried another strike from one of the creatures. Let's move. They began a slow, controlled retreat toward the exit, covering each other in sync as they pushed through the remaining alien forces. Kira, keeping to the back, fired off shots and tossed small explosive devices, clearing their path. The team moved as one, well practiced from countless missions. Yet something was different now, Veer could feel it. There was a renewed determination in their movements, a shared understanding that they weren't just fighting to survive, they were fighting for the idea that the eternal heart symbolized. The team made it back to the Endurance, breathless but alive. Zane hit the controls, and the ship's engines roared to life, lifting them off the ground as the planet's surface disappeared beneath them. They weren't safe yet, but at least they were out of immediate danger. As the ship accelerated away from Regal 4, the team gathered in the main hold. Elara was already deep into the data she had downloaded, her face illuminated by the soft glow of her screen. The rest of them were silent, still processing what had happened. What do we do now? Dane finally asked, breaking the silence. We didn't exactly come back with a weapon that'll save the Empire. Veer looked around at her team, all of them worn down from years of war, from the endless fighting that had stripped humanity of its hope. We came back with something better, she said. The eternal heart was never a weapon. It's not a tool for destruction or power. It's a reminder of what makes us human. The unity, the love, the belief that we can come together and rebuild. Zane scoffed, though not in disbelief, more in frustration. How do we explain that to the council? They're expecting a miracle, not a pep talk. Veer crossed her arms, her eyes hardened by the reality of their situation. The council will hear the truth. They'll have to. This war has made us lose sight of what's really important. If we keep fighting the way we have, focusing only on weapons and destruction, we'll lose everything, even if we win. But if we can show people what the heart represents, if we can inspire them to unite, maybe we can rebuild without needing to fight at all. The team exchanged glances, uncertain but willing to trust their leader. They had been with Veer long enough to know she wasn't easily swayed by false hope. Elara spoke up, her eyes glued to her screen. There's more here than just philosophy, she said. This data contains records from civilizations that faced extinction and survived, without war. They rebuilt by focusing on unity, cooperation. That's what the eternal heart was for them, a reminder of those ideals. If we can share this knowledge, it might be enough to change things. Veer nodded. That's the plan. We use this data to show the Empire that there's another way forward. Zane leaned back, arms crossed. And what if they don't listen? Veer didn't hesitate. Then we'll make them listen. The ship sped through space, but Veer's mind was already far ahead, thinking about what they would face when they returned to the Empire. The Council was desperate, and desperate people didn't always listen to reason. But she had no choice. She had to try. The Empire's survival depended on it. The journey back was tense. No one spoke much, but they didn't need to. Each of them was lost in their thoughts, preparing for the inevitable confrontation that awaited them. When they finally arrived at the capital, the tension only grew. The Endurance landed in a vast hangar, its battered hull a stark contrast to the polished military vessels that surrounded it. Veer led her team into the heart of the capital, where the council awaited them. The air was thick with anticipation, and as they entered the council chamber, all eyes turned to them. The council leader, the same old man who had sent them on the mission, rose to greet them. "Did you find it?" he asked, his voice tinged with desperation. "The Eternal Heart?" Veer stepped forward, her chin held high. "We found it. But it's not what you think." The room fell silent. Veer could feel the weight of their expectations pressing down on her, but she didn't falter. She explained everything, what they had found, what the Eternal Heart truly represented, and the data Alara had uncovered. She spoke of unity, of rebuilding through cooperation rather than war. She laid out the path forward, one that relied on hope, not destruction. When she finished, the council was silent. The old man stared at her, his expression unreadable. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then, finally, he broke the silence. "You're telling us that the salvation of the Empire lies in some abstract idea of unity?" Veer held his gaze. "Yes. And it's the only chance we have." The council leader's face darkened, but before he could respond, Alara stepped forward. "It's not just an idea," she said, holding up her console. "We have data, proof. These civilizations survived because they chose to come together, not tear each other apart. We can do the same." The council leader hesitated, his gaze shifting to the rest of his advisors. Some of them looked intrigued, others skeptical. But Veer could see it, the flicker of hope that hadn't been there before. "We've tried everything else," one of the younger council members finally said. "Maybe it's time we tried something new." The council leader frowned but gave a reluctant nod. "Very well. We will examine the data. But if this fails, it won't," Veer said firmly. "Because we'll make sure it doesn't." The days that followed were a blur of meetings, debates, and strategic discussions. Veer and her team presented their findings to the Empire's leaders, spreading the message of the Eternal Heart far and wide. At first, resistance was strong. There were many who still clung to the idea that only war could save them. But slowly, as the truth of the Eternal Heart's message spread, things began to change. Communities that had once been divided by conflict started to come together. People began to rebuild, not with weapons, but with cooperation and mutual support. The Empire's fractured territories slowly started to heal. Veer watched it all unfold with a mixture of pride and relief. It hadn't been easy, and the road ahead was still long, but they had done it. The Eternal Heart had saved the Empire, not through force, but through the power of unity and love. In the end, it wasn't a mythical artifact that had restored humanity's future. It was the realization that they had always possessed the strength they needed, within themselves. As Veer stood at the edge of the capital's rebuilt city, watching the sun set over the horizon, she allowed herself a small smile. The battle was over, but the real work had only just begun. And this time, she knew they could do it, together.